First, let's get this out of the way. Yes, starting to stream on any kind of social platform in 2026, especially from zero, is insanely hard. Twitch has over 7 million active streamers every single month. That's a lot of competition, and most people will just tell you that it's not worth trying to get into because your chances to succeed with it are very small. That's the general picture that everybody knows. But in reality, there are some other aspects that most people will either disregard or not consider at all, which I believe are extremely important. So let me tell you today the reason why I've started, so maybe you can find your own, but also how my progress is going and also my plans for the future. I really believe in establishing a reason why you're working so hard towards anything so you can keep going when your initial motivation goes away. You will always remember your why and it will keep you going. And my reason for starting live streaming and keep working hard towards it is because I wanted to improve my content creation. That's the first highlight of this video, one of the points that I want to get across to you. Even if you don't remember anything else, try to remember those. But let me explain a bit more about how that reason is already taking shape and having a huge impact on my content. Now, before we get into that, let me tell you a bit about my background and how I got here. I started creating content like 4 to 5 years ago. I don't remember exactly, I'll have to double check. But so far, I haven't had huge success with it. I've had some viral hits on TikTok and LinkedIn, but nothing that established me as a content creator with like a huge following. But something that I haven't tried is live streaming. I don't have a really good reason why, I just thought that it's hard to be entertaining in a live format and that probably it's not something for me, but oh, how wrong I was about it. I'm not trying to claim that I have a natural talent for streaming, that I'm entertaining, or even that I'm barely good at it. I probably am not and won't be for a long time, but what I've been told in the past is that I'm good at interactions and especially exchanges with other people, which is something that's missing from this kind of format. But on live streaming, that's not the case, and it's amazing. Now, of course, as I've seen that applied over there, I also want to bring it to this format in order to improve the quality. So let me know if you have any questions about this specific topic, personal development, investing, or business, or anything connected to that. So I can already feel a small development here with including more interactivity into my content, even if it's not taken shape like completely yet, but there's an even bigger improvement, and that is on my speaking skills. I didn't have a lot of experience with public speaking before I started creating content. Maybe I've had like 1 or 2 events where I had to speak to a larger audience, but those ended up being so bad. I was so awkward because I was filled with social anxiety. That's still here, it didn't disappear, but it has gone down a lot over the years with creating content, exposing myself to an audience, essentially to you. But that process has been very accelerated ever since I started live streaming. People have told me in the past that if I want to improve my English speaking skills, I have to watch more content in English or to read more books in that language, which yes, I was already doing. And on top of that, I use it a lot in my workplace. But now that I have this other experience, I can tell you that they are nothing alike. I'm not sure what's the exact mechanism here, like the psychological reason why, but I believe it has something to do with accepting the fact that people will see me making a lot of mistakes. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. When I initially said that reason why, I was especially thinking about my speaking skills, because it's been quite hard to create content because English is my second language, and also I'm not in an English speaking country at the moment, so it's quite hard to get experience, to get used to talking a lot in English and all of that. So live streaming has been helping a lot with that aspect. I even got a lot of comments from my friends that have watched the recordings that I might be speaking a bit too much, because if you watch them, it's just me speaking for 3 hours without any long breaks. But it's helping a lot. Something else that's improving, that's completely surprising for me because I did not expect it, is how comfortable I am with the camera. Not just being on camera, but also working with it. Like for example, taking this with me, showing you around, stuff like that. Previously, I was very rigid about it, but now I can also do this, which is a huge improvement in my opinion. It's not like I don't know how to use a camera, because I've been researching a lot about that topic in order to improve the content, but I didn't have actual experience with it, because when I'm recording a long form content, it's just staying there. Maybe I'm switching to my side camera, but that's about it, not a lot of action. Instead, on live stream, I can experiment with it, and it's been so much fun. Essentially, I've been feeling more free and creative to try new things out and see how it works, and also I can get feedback much faster if people are joining the live stream because they can tell me if it sucks or not, and even better, I can see how it looks in real time from your guys' perspective. Because when I do a long form video like this, it takes a second for it to get to editing, where I can see how it looks, and it takes even longer for you guys to get it, so I can see the feedback from that. Now that I think about it, that might actually be the biggest advantage of live streaming for me, because it's essentially closing this thing that I call the feedback loop. So from when I create a piece of content until it gets to you guys, so I can get the feedback and then improve stuff, and it keeps going in a loop. So let me summarize this. I believe that since I started this journey, the quality of my content has increased a bit. On top of that, I believe that I've improved my speaking skills. And even better, I believe I've gained a little bit more confidence. It's actually very fun to work through this process. Even though I don't get a lot of people that are joining the stream, it's still amazing. But speaking of, let me tell you more about my strategy to solve that problem. There's a lot of advice online on how to get started with a new channel, how to set everything up, how to bring more people in and stuff like that. But in my experience at least, some of it was actually good, but others were just useless, a waste of time, and even some that didn't apply to me at all. For example, the most common advice that I found is to niche down on a specific game or a specific type of content and to stick with it until you actually succeed. But I find that to be counterproductive. It's similar to launching a product if you want. You can have an amazing idea, you can create some value, and there might be some interest in it, but in the end it might not turn into anything meaningful if there's not enough demand for that. For example, in my case, that advice doesn't work out at all because I'm someone that hates focusing too much on one single topic for months on end. So if I were to do that, I would end up hating it. But that doesn't mean that I'm not fit for streaming, because there are also variety streamers. There's also that version which I consider even worse, that before you start anything, you need to find something unique about yourself or the content that you're creating, or to do crazy stuff in order to get people to watch you. But I also find that to be pretty bad advice, because in the end you develop that over time. I also don't have anything right now that I can say, yes, that's unique about myself, that's why people should watch me. But I will work on it, I will try stuff out and see what works and sticks, and I will continue doing that. But to have to do all of that before you even start putting out any kind of content, I find that to be just crazy. Another bad one is that you need to have the perfect stream, like crazy overlays, effects with lots of plugins, big productions, amazing quality and stuff like that. First of all, I believe that all of the people that are telling you that just want to sell you something, and you will get many of them once you start streaming that will come into your stream and say, oh, but you need to improve the quality, you need better overlays, you need a logo, you need stuff like that. They just want to sell you something. I get around 5 people per stream doing that, and I don't have anything against them. I understand the hustle, but if they do that too much, I'm going to ban them, because it's just not for me right now. I do invest a lot into my content and the gear that I use, like all of the lights, the camera, the microphones, even stuff that I'm learning, but mostly that's for me because I enjoy putting out quality stuff. I have huge plans for the stream. I have a ton of stuff that I want to add, and I plan on working to improve it over time, probably by myself. But in my first stream it was just the game and then my camera in the corner. Since then I've added an overlay to the stream, but it's a free generic one from Streamlabs, so not a lot of money went into that. Again, I don't have anything against getting custom art, but I don't think that it's mandatory to start to have something like that, and I also don't think that it improves stuff that much in the beginning. Now let's get into what actually works for me and what makes a difference. First of all, streaming as much as possible. I plan to stream whenever I can, as much as possible. So far, I've only missed 2 days since I've started. Over time, more people started to join and some of them stayed. At most, I've had like 9 concurrent viewers, which is not a lot, but also not too bad. It was also good to try new stuff out, like for example, I started playing Eugenics because it's the most popular game at the moment. Before buying a game, many people will check out the reviews, but they will also want to watch multiple people play it in order to see if it's actually worth it. And that's your chance to get people into your own stream. When I was playing Eugenics, I've got like 50 people to join just from playing that game, which is huge. Even if only 2 people out of those will stay, it's still good for me, because that can compound over time. Another good advice is that you need to post clips from your stream with highlights, but I currently don't have many of those because it's kinda hard to generate them without a lot of people on the stream. But I still post a lot of vertical content with other stuff like personal development advice. The more you post here, the better, but you also don't need to post 100 of them. I only post like one before each stream, or at least I'm trying to do that. I mentioned before that I tend to speak a lot on stream, and that's because I don't want there to be any dead moments, because if people will join from any source, I want them to have something interesting to watch. Even if it's just basic commentary on what's happening in the game, I still try to do that in order to get some action in. Something that I'm not sure where to put just yet is multi-streaming, especially getting into vertical streaming. Twitch is still the dominant platform for live streaming, at least the serious kind, let's call it. But it doesn't have a discovery algorithm, so it's hard to get discovered on there. On the other hand, TikTok Live has a good algorithm, but it's very hard to get people to stay on your stream. Or even if they stay for that specific stream, they won't be coming back in the future. So I'm questioning at the moment whether that's really worth it to do. People will tend to say that, oh, it's just another way to repurpose content, but it's not quite like that, because you have to make sure that the vertical stream looks good, you have to interact with people on there, or otherwise they will just leave. And on top of that, you need quite a beefy setup and a good internet connection. There are tools to help with that, but there's an impact on quality, and on top of that, you have to pay for them, which, like I've said, I'm not sure if it's worth it. Now, getting into the future plans, yes, I want to look more into this specific multi-stream problem in the future, but on top of that, I need to get a dual station setup. I have an ongoing joke that I can start a stream without having a single technical issue. At one point, I've streamed for 2.5 hours without my microphone working, even if I did all of the checks before. I'm a tech guy, this should not happen. Well, I've had to come to terms that I can't control it, but one of those problems was so bad that it took my stream offline for 5 minutes, and that meant that I've lost all of the viewers that I've had before. So I want to move to a dual setup in order to prevent such issues in the future. But in order to get to that, I have to move to a bigger space. I'm currently limited by this space that you can see around me. I only have this room and I can't fit much more in here, especially another workstation. On top of that, my current internet service provider is shit. They don't have an option to upgrade to a better plan, and on top of that, I can't even switch, so I need to move. Those are like far into the future changes, but something short term, I plan to improve the quality of the stream by adding more overlays, effects, and stuff like that, but made by me, and also I want to add custom coding into it. Currently I'm also focused on gaming live streams, but I also want to switch that up a bit. I will probably do some live coding and stuff like that, and more interactive stuff. And the last thing that I have on my improvements list is that I want to start looking into getting collabs. Not sure how I'm gonna do that, but it's something that I want to look into. I've played games with my friends on live, but they are not interested in streaming or getting on voice, so I'll have to find other people from this domain that are interested in that. But yeah, that's mostly it about what's working for me, what doesn't, and my plan for the futures. Let me know if you've enjoyed this kind of content, and don't forget to leave any questions that you have in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Also, if you're interested in live streaming, especially in gaming, you might want to check out my Twitch, because I might be live right now. Hi, it's still me, but from the future while I'm editing this video. It's been a couple of days now, and some things have changed, so I wanted to update you on those. I've had the chance now to do a couple more streams, and after more of the initial excitement has finally worn off, I can tell you that some things have changed. For example, while I still want to stream as much as possible, I need to focus more on the discovery part. For example, I want to be able to gather an initial seed audience, which will increase my chances for me to be discovered on Twitch. Otherwise, it's pretty hard for people to find you there. It's also clearer now that while streaming is amazing and I want to keep doing it so I can connect with you, the audience, it's not a good way to compound growth. For example, after you finish a stream, that piece of content will no longer be there to help compound your growth compared to like a long form video. Yes, you do get the votes, but those will also disappear after a certain period of time. So what I need to do is to either re-upload those to YouTube or to cross-stream on there, but it's clear that won't help with my growth on Twitch. So what I need to do, it seems, is like gather an initial audience of like maybe 10 to 15 people and to start from there. So live streaming is still on, it doesn't go away, but the focus is on the distribution for now. That's the update on the strategy.